we would.
So that consistent, do you want me to just copy and paste out of R1 or out of residential?
I would feel comfortable with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because all of those would be the same. The only thing that would be like a little less is like maybe the odor, noise, and glare, but might as well keep it in there when there's a problem. Right, next comment, Kaylin. If there's not a prohibition on mixed use and all types of residents are permitted in the zone, is this necessary?
I don't think it's necessary. And the reason why is that in the zone it talks about, one, household dwellings, two,
Right.
household dwellings, apartments, court apartments. We're already listing those as permitted uses in the zone, but then for some reason we say that this is, that we can allow dwellings above the ground floor for commercial use. Well, that seems implied, I think.
I'm okay to remove it. Does anyone have heartburn to remove? Let's resolve it. Okay. The next one, Ronnie, also current code refers to dwellings, homes utilizing the ground floor as residential use, requires CUP and we're taking that out, accepting that residential ground floor use as a given. Said section also notes dwellings above the ground floor consisting of commercial uses as permitted. Does that need to be spelled out here and list of permitted uses?
So I just put a note in here because I was going through your notes trying to make sure I was prepared, but it's just another conflict in the code where we've got it listed as permitted and conditional. And we already allow housing on the ground floor in the zone. So I don't know that that it's necessary to keep dwellings above the ground floor in commercial use.
Yeah, we can,
We allow them.
I think we just resolved it, yeah. So the next one is, good work team. Is this good that I'm just reading through? Is that helpful? Please go a little faster. Okay. So Ronnie's the next comment. Appropriate number of C1 given our
This is the group home, and
discussion. Yeah.
I felt like we probably should just do the copy and paste from the residential zones as far as the standards, and then figure out the number.
As we were testing.
Yeah, let's figure out the number. So so we've got C1, C2, C3, C4, C5. I'm pretty sure C3 doesn't allow group homes. So it's just 1, 2, 4, and 5. Okay, so we could do it by, so C1 is pretty much, the C1 zone is like north of town before highway resort commercial is the C1 primarily, right? So it's the, yeah, so that's it, that's our C1. I'd be fine with not having a number restriction. Actually, I'd probably be fine not having a number restriction on any group home in commercial because it would be tied to the site and other restrictions. I'm inclined to say like, don't put a number, just specify.
Okay.
I can't imagine anyone doing like 100 people.
That C1 stretch is weird because on the one hand it's on Highway 191, but it backs up to residential. So it's kind of weird that way. Yeah, so that was my only question. Like, is there any reason you would want something too large?
But if they were, I mean, it's like you hear a truck or you hear some like people. They're gonna have to be, they're gonna have all the other stuff like parking and everything. I just as soon take out any kind of number of residents in any of these zones.
Okay.
Does anyone disagree?
I don't know.
Do you have, let me pull the wording that we have in the R1, just so you can refer back to that, because R1 is the one we made.
And does anybody have opposition to using the wording that we did with the R1 for the specifying that type of resident?
No.
Yeah, so we'll carry that over.
We'll carry that over.
The
Yeah.
only thing, as far as a limitation of number of people, somewhere else in that code, does it specify a certain square footage for each individual, or, I mean, I don't want,
Does the state determine that? I mean, like minimum?
yeah, is there somewhere that
The state
determines,
does, under
okay,
the licensing procedure.
so you can't put
They have, yeah.
4 people in a,
Right, sorry, you can.
yeah, that's what I don't want to happen.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm fine with taking the
So these
numbers out.
These are the standards that we ended with in the residential zone, minus the number of residents.
I'm comfortable with
Yeah,
taking
yeah,
that.
that's fine. As
Okay.
long as somewhere that's provided
Okay.
for.
Cool.
And we'll just see
One, and we'll,
resolve
Right.
and fix.
hey, we're doing great.
Yes.
Well, we knew commercial would be easier.
Okay.
Okay, I have a comment. This reads that you can't have less than 7. Yeah, this was weird. Because it says multi-household dwellings, and then it goes multi-household dwellings of 7 or more units. And I thought maybe with the carryover, it was like, does it have to say, when there are more than 7 units, here are the, subject to the following
It
requirements?
could, because the way I read it is that the standards apply to 7 or more units.
Right.
And then if you have 3 to 6, these
We don't
standards
have to
don't
worry
apply.
about it.
But it might be
Yeah.
better to clarify it.
Or do we want to have these, no matter how many you have, you still have to have access and parking and garage or carports that are not located in the front yard and landscaping and buffering, and a little bit of open space.
When you hit 7, usually that's kind of a breakover point for greater impacts on the neighborhood, so that's why it's a little conditional.
So then I think what we're saying is 11 multi-household dwellings. And then also, if you have more than 7, you have these additional requirements. Does everyone understand that? Because otherwise it's like, wait, can you have a 4-plex?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can make that wording fit that way? Okay, resolve that guy. Because I think we all have the same assumption, but if you were to do a 4-plex, it's like, oh, well, is that allowed? Do you have to do, because we were talking about, like, what if we said you have to do at least 7 in the season?
Okay.
We don't want to say that. Okay,
So we're gonna resolve that and then just clarify the wording that,
if 7 or more, the following requirements apply.
okay.
Yeah, okay. Ronnie, do we have a definition for this? Can I take it to include, can I take it? It includes this clinics in current code under item 2, professional offices.
So I went and pulled the definition of professional person from our code, which is what we have. I thought when we changed the industrial zone that we could find that, but when I looked back at the ordinance, I didn't see that. But the professional person, I mean, this would be the office of the professional person, so that was the,
Okay, yeah,
That's
that's fine,
the
I just like
definition
given
we
that,
have.
yeah, recent question about clinics, yeah, just
Yeah.
making sure it's, yeah.
so that's the definition that we have for professional person, and that would include their office, clinic. Is that, you comfortable with that?
Well, so like, if you wanted to be a bookkeeper, that would work, because, but you don't, what if you don't have a higher education? You're still a professional person.
You could be, you could also be a bookkeeper just as an occupation too. You don't necessarily want a separate office. I mean, I would imagine like a CPA, you're gonna want a bigger office location, but if you just,
Probably somebody that has a certification.
yeah.
Is home occupation, but what if a bookkeeper wanted to have a professional office? Maybe they could do it.
It would probably fall under that consultant.
Yeah, I would tell them they couldn't have their.
Okay. Defines, professional person defines occupations such as opposed to means and. Occupations such as. Oh, but that's a definition.
This is the
we've
current
already-
definition in the code. And we didn't have a new one proposed. This was the one that we adopted for. So I think this is, I didn't see the definition in Iowa.
Is it a POTUS or row? Is that a foot?
Iowa labor?
Good kind of practice.
For just strictly-
What?
That's a
That's a
job, that's a specific. I wish we had one, I'd go for a foot massage right now. I'm wearing heels all day. Well, it does seem to sort of be more exclusive, so maybe we should consider that definition to be a little more inclusive for, but that's not right here, but do you all agree that maybe the definition's a little?
I think one of those all of them are consultants.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I
you're
think
probably
they're
right.
consultants, they could be defined as a consultant.
But it requires graduation from the school repair.
Yeah, but even.
We're not, we didn't, we
Ask
don't
for it.
ask for their diploma when they come in for their business license.
Yeah, if you go to a two-year business school, that's still.
You still get an accreditation, yeah.
You get a certificate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, moving on.
We good?
We're good.
Okay.
There's very little C1, and most of it is on the highway. Do we want this? Or was wholesale establishment conditional?
No, it was listed in the very first section of that grouping of permitted uses. Wholesale establishments less than 3,000 square feet. This was just plugged in alphabetical order.
I don't know why I even thought, like, who cares, but if you're wholesaling, you're not doing sales tax. That's the difference. And it's kind of like an extension of our C3. So I was just thinking, do we want to, like, would you want to see a wholesale warehouse there by the credit union and by the dentist and by the real estate office? I guess it doesn't matter, but
So
a large building.
the reason it was restricted is because the C1 is like a transition or a buffer zone. And that's the only reason why you have that limitation on the 3,000 square feet. Was to keep from having larger impacts on adjacent residential uses.
You're essentially asking, do you want wholesalers or
No,
using the C1?
or are they better in the industrial? But maybe that's a little overreach for this exercise anyway.
But you also want to think, I mean, on a bigger scale, yes, we only have a little portion of C1, but as the city grows, you may want to use that buffer zone or a transition zone between, I mean, are those uses that you feel are comfortable between higher commercial uses and maybe residential uses, so that's appropriate.
Yeah, but it is true that this C1 in particular is this funny noisy zone between a highway with trucks and like single family residents right behind.
Would you like to look at that on the zoning map?
No,
Is the rub the wholesale establishment?
Yeah.
Or the size of the building?
the wholesale in general.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm willing to let this go. I just think it's like, we're not gonna get sales tax. It could be a noisy thing.
Yeah.
I think it's
A lot of other things.
they say, a transition between residential and commercial. And wholesale establishments without any qualifications on it could open the door to storage, I don't know, perhaps
Amazon
stores.
could have.
That's what I'm trying to
Well,
figure out.
self-storage warehouse is different than just, than the wholesale establishment. So like a self-storage warehouse has a whole different, it has its own title or its own permitted use in like the industrial zones. This one we wouldn't interpret to be storage warehouse. This would, I would see more like Amazon.
So
Would
storage
synergy, would synergy,
Synergy.
consider
Right.
So, yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's okay. All right,
Something like that, I think we just have to
I withdraw.
kind of trust that it'll play out.
You're right.
you're right, I withdraw. Do we know, did we historically have any? Is that why, I guess I figure a lot of these came up because, yeah.
Your guess is as good as mine on
But
that.
if I withdraw and we're done, then we're done with C1.
We are done with C1.
We're done with C1. Hit it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
You guys do what the rest of it.
I missed the hit part, sorry.
We're gonna have to work on that. But you're the only one that even said anything, so. like,
Okay, here we go, let's go C2.
C2. Okay, so C2, let's all just remind ourselves where C2 is. It is, well, we might as well do the thing.
Do you have the zoning map popped up?
Yeah. Dora the Explorer says, get out the map.
So C2 is kind of all over the place.
Yeah. I have a lot of.
So it's the light blue.
It really was kind of, the C1 and the C2 and the C5 have some similar zones that C5.
So let's just, give us just a sec to kind of see. So a little off Main Street, down the street from us here is a cluster.
Around the hospital.
Around the hospital is a big chunk.
Yeah.
And the idea for this zone was to be sort of like little nightly rentals, little shops.
More of a transition from those intenser commercial uses into a residential zone.
B&Bs are in this zone. Multifamily is allowed in this zone. Apartments. But nightly rentals are no more than 7. And
There,
is it 10?
it's under 10 units.
Under 10.
Yes.
9 or less.
But the biggest chunk, really, that's still underdeveloped is around the hospital. C2. Okay, is that, just curious, the park owned by JJ? Can you zoom in where your cursor is, just so we can get a little closer to what that area is? Or is that the Center Street? That's Center Street.
That's Center Street, he's R4
He's R4.
over here.
He's across the street in R4.
Yeah.
That big beigey patch. There we go.
Yeah, right.
You mean the food court? What are you
No.
talking about? Yeah.
So, right down.
This is JJ, right?
No, that's,
Oh, this is where
that's
the
Max.
pass-through development.
Yes, down,
And here's the hospital.
Yes, so to
Here's
your-
this way.
yes, up, right, yes,
That's
that's,
JJ.
yes.
So this is the C2 that we're talking. C2 is here, C2 is here. And then a little bit of C2 up there. Oh, okay, so Entrada is C2.
Right.
West Center Street, down
Some of
from
the West Center
Terrace,
Street.
down that way.
But with certain annexations, C2 is kind of an interesting zone for us to think about down the road if parcels, right now they're just kind of here and there and everywhere. Okay, so back to, oh wait, there's one more zone that's really important. Go down to USU. That's how we are.
C4.
That's C4?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not C2. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Or you can scroll down just so you guys can look, C4 and R4 in that area, right?
I think that's what my comment was about. So I think my first comment was, we're all looking. I think my comment was that we went from fraternal lodges to having actually fraternity and sorority homes. I really do like the idea of having that somewhere in our code. The question is where, and I really like the idea of it being R4.
I do not.
You don't? Well, the reason why I do is because the majority of our floors are around USU. That's where you'd have a frat house. Where do you want a frat house? Out of college.
Not in my backyard.
Now, that's just NIMBY right there. That's just straight up a council member going NIMBY.
No,
But it's true. Nobody wants a fraternity in their backyard.
everybody needs to consolidate.
Yeah, they are problematic.
But I think what you were trying to do is create a place in the zone where it's available.
Does anyone ever create the world's smallest little overlay for that? I mean,
Well,
because they are commonly close to campus. You know.
The alternative is C4.
That's where it would make more sense to me.
But the industrial zone.
Well, I think it makes sense to put it in the C4 where it's close to the campus.
And so why not R4? Because then apartments? I mean, that's your highest density housing. Who cares if there's a frat house? If you're in an apartment?
Conflicts, just inherent conflicts of the nature of a fraternity house with.
Well, on this map, John and Ellie could have a frat house next door.
Wouldn't that be deliciously
In the
ironic?
C4. Maybe for future discussion, it may make sense that maybe those areas of C or of R4 that are in town R3 still a multifamily housing zone, and you create the R4 to be your
Fraternities only.
fraternity zone that applies to that campus area.
Well, we could do an R5, exclusive to fraternities and sororities, and do just a strip of land that's not developed for like fraternity sorority route.
Yeah, like way on the other side of San Juan County.
But going back to C2, let's go back to the comments, because I think what I was saying is, in this draft, it's an allowed use in C2, and I don't think it should be.
Well, so where do we have like existing lodges? So we have the Masons, right? They're over in C5, and then is Elks Lodge still open? I know they were thinking about selling
I
it.
don't even think that was.
Yeah.
They're not required.
Yeah, and what else, if anything, do we have historically that still?
The one up here, right up here, in the, I think it's in the C5.
That's the Masons.
Yeah.
Up here.
But they
don't use it, but it's in the county.
But they don't need that distinction either.
I wonder if they need additional standards.
Fraternity and.
Well, they're not fraternity organizations, they're fraternity.
Exactly, that's more the old definition, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Summer, do we have any fraternities and sororities in town? We're not likely to either, because remember, USU has given up on, for the moment.
Well, they could be virtual.
Destination campus.
Virtual fraternities.
Well, I know.
With our campus.
It goes back to the day my stepmom was in a sorority, and it wasn't like an actual like sorority house, but they got.
It was a
sorority
service,
still got
it was a
together.
service sorority.
Yeah, I
I've
mean,
been on for a long time.
And there is one here, they have the big
Alpharetta.
fundraiser. with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Common sales and stuff.
but as far as like an actual
A house.
housing facility,
But if somebody wants to do a fraternity or a sorority building, what zone, because we have to allow for the ability to do that, what zone should it go in? C4.
Where are we putting nuclear power plants?
I want.
No, we have to allow all uses.
It just needs to be a really little one.
How do you get your R5?
I think the fraternities were, I was in one for a little bit, not very long. And I think of it as being, you know,
From what you remember, it was
a
great.
boarding house, you know, so in that sense, it kind of fits down at the bottom of the C's.
So if we said a fraternity house is a boarding house, then
We took boarding houses completely out of the residential zones.
we did?
Took that terminology out.
So then we could just take out fraternity and sorority buildings and assume that they're like boarding house. So we could take that out.
Okay.
Okay. Because there is a place for them to go, like you're saying, boarding house. Okay, that sounds good. That seems right.
So just to be clear, where can they go? Which zones? All?
Well, I mean,
Anywhere there's a boarding house.
I was gonna say, I don't know how, I wasn't in this sorority, I don't know how this whole thing works. I mean, is it basically co-housing,
Yeah.
sort of? I mean, so if you're looking at multifamily housing, would you have like, everybody has a bedroom, but they share a kitchen?
Yeah.
I mean, it's an apartment house. If you really want to say it's not a boarding house, it's an apartment house.
But they didn't have kitchens.
Couldn't you technically?
It's an apartment house.
Have something set up to where you
I think it's a
share
rooming house, like
bedrooms?
they get served meals, yeah.
Okay, it's an apartment house.
I mean, is it similar to a roommate situation?
Yeah,
But you all belong to the same club?
yeah. A fraternity house is an apartment house. A sorority
No.
house is
I
an
do not,
I don't
think so.
I don't think so.
it's a rooming house, you're paying for rent and meals.
Typically.
You what?
I don't think they typically have living units with kitchens. I think there tends to be one.
One kitchen.
They
Yeah,
may even
an
have,
apartment house.
No.
they may even have a bathroom down the hall.
An apartment house Shared with units
Yeah.
with typically 1 to 3 bedrooms or studios with their own kitchens. And a boarding house has 1 kitchen, many bedrooms, which are rented individually.
And our sorority and fraternities don't even have a kitchen on site.
So, but now as I say that, I'm realizing we may need to dig into what's the distinction between a boarding house and how many kitchens does it?
Well, we
What's the
took that,
They took it out.
we took boarding and rooming houses completely out because we looked at them as multifamily or co-housing situations. That was our discussion in the residential zone, was to take those completely out.
But back to what you were saying, apartment house to me is like a shared house, like where everybody has bedrooms, but then they share a kitchen. That's not an apartment house?
Everyone's shaking their head.
The A word.
Well, I think someone has a point, but maybe fraternity house would qualify as under the general rules of single.
Co-housing is how we talked about it last.
That's
During our
If you're gonna leave it
residential.
open, you don't care who's living with who.
Cats and dogs.
So,
I think we need to say fraternity and sorority building in some zone that we're comfortable at being in. Otherwise, they would fall into any kind of other multifamily housing. I think we need to have fraternity and sorority building specified in one zone that we're comfortable having it in. So it doesn't come somewhere else. And it could happen in 5 years. USU could flip to a destination campus, and then you get a frat house, and then you're like, whoa, you can't do that, it's not in the right zone. And they're like, it's multifamily. So unless we specify it somewhere in code, fraternity and sorority buildings.
So the area all around the USU campus is C4.
There's C4 and R4. And I think most of the housing is proposed for the R4 area.
Right.
The actual campus itself is proposed for the C4. What you could do is, if you do feel comfortable perhaps moving it to the R4, come back and maybe think of some standards that you want to apply to that.
To that use.
Yeah. I'm not sure you want to open that can of worms yet either.
We could add it to C1. We could have fraternity and sorority buildings in C1.
So we're not the first community, other communities have grappled with this for decades or hundreds of years. I wonder what solutions
Well,
they generate.
I know at one point in time I was looking at like Orange City just to see what theirs, and I think they have like a student housing overlay zone, so maybe that's what it needs. Like you were saying, have an actual student housing overlay zone for the area proposed for the campus that deals directly with this.
And then you could have it restricted to X amount of feet or a quarter mile from the campus site.
Because then you could leave it as multifamily housing, but your student housing overlay zone might address some of those concerns that we're talking about right now.
So I think what we're saying then is let's put it exclusively in C4 and let's get specificity soon.
I mean, I'm interested potentially in the overlay,
Right.
yeah, because
Or
we
in
see
C4
more
or
multiple
R4.
places.
An overlay in R4 or an overlay in C4?
Well,
So then you have
accessory uses
R4.
are in C1 since it's all the way down the road. So, I mean, you want it near the campus.
Yeah,
So if the student housing is going in R4,
it is.
then it's going to be
An overlay in R4.
Overlay zone, we would have to have standards that apply to.
So can you figure out an overlay in R4 for fraternity and sorority buildings? It's all a blank slate, so we could have like a row of frat homes
We could.
as part of that development. We're gonna have to work with SITLA.
Yep.
And for the purposes of today, we can exclude it from all of our zones and just make sure that we put it in R4.
Okay, so he's going in R4.
Or the city of Warren already has one set up.
City of Warren, so we can use that.
So we can look at it and see.
Yeah,
I found
for
three
code
more just
revision.
now looking on the internet.
I just looked, I was looking at this because I knew that this was kind of coming,
Yeah,
it could come before us and wanted to see what we could, how we can kind of deal with it. And I just looked at the city of Warren, because that's where my mom went to school, so.
cool. All right, so just to be super clear, we're deleting fraternity and sorority buildings in all zones except R4. And then you're gonna come back to council with some kind of code stuff that says it's gotta be in an overlay, and then an overlay will be specified and then we'll move forward. Okay,
I do have a question historically about the fraternity organization lodges. Do we anticipate any kind of, the Elks wanting a new place, or I don't know, if Rotary would fall under that, if they wanted a building, does it make sense to leave it somewhere, or do we need to leave it in C5 at least when we get there for the make sense that they have theirs, or do they not need that listed separately? I don't know how common types of lodges are anymore.
I don't know how common they are either. I mean, it might be worth it if we know that there's one in C5, if we don't want to make them illegal non-conforming use,
Yeah,
maybe
leave
leave
it
that.
in that one.
Let's
Okay.
leave that there.
Okay.
Just
The lodges language.
the fraternal
Fraternal
organization.
lodge.
Yeah.
Greenhouses is one word. Oh yeah, you can resolve that.
That'd be nice to, so that's all paint our houses green.
Okay. One quick question before we get too far out of the C1, C2. In the C1, we changed the terminology to lodging. It doesn't actually specifically list a bed and breakfast, and I know that this is a conversation that you wanted to have as far as potentially moving bed and breakfasts out of residential zones and putting them specifically into commercial zones.
Okay,
So
I'm
do
gonna
we
straw
have
poll
a
this
conversation?
council right now. So raise your hand if you want bed and breakfast in the R3 or R4 zone. If you do, advocate for, and it's okay if you do, if you believe in a bed and breakfast in the R3 or the R4, raise your hand, please. Okay, Karen does. Anybody else? Anyone?
We're defining bed and breakfast typically as we have with the conditions we've given them, like.
Yes.
Let me go.
Can
Let
we
me
do
go
it after
back.
5
So
years?
based on that straw
Such
poll,
percentage.
we are going to remove bed and breakfast from all residential zones. And instead, we'd like to have those bed and breakfast use, instead of being conditional use and R, that we would like them to be permitted use in the C1, C2, C4, C5? C3? All C? C or no C?
The C2, C3, and
I'm
C4.
ruminating, I'm not disagreeing, I'm ruminating.
Okay.
Sorry, the C2, C3, and C4 list lodging as permitted uses. The C1 allowed bed and breakfast. That property is now rezoned to C2. It's classified as lodging. It's kind of weird. So I don't know if you want to allow a bed and breakfast. It's smaller scale than, say, lodging, than a hotel. The C2, you're still limited to under 10 units, so I think if somebody wanted to put in a bed and breakfast, but we would classify it as lodging because it's allowed there, but I don't know if you want those standards to apply to the bed and breakfast. They don't necessarily apply to the lodging under 10 units, but they have to go through the whole complete site plan process. I don't know where you guys want to.
I think that we know. Where are they currently allowed?
So I think in commercial zones where lodging is allowed, they can just get permitted as lodging without the restrictions that we put on bed and breakfast. Like the bed and breakfast definition was kind of tailored to residential zones. So I don't know that if we're getting rid of it in residential zones, we need to define it because people can just permit as a lodging and then they can provide a bed and breakfast like experience.
What about the commercial zones that are considered buffers, like C1 and C2?
C2 does allow, so C1 and C5 are basically the two zones that don't have lodging listed as a use. So I don't know if maybe those bed and breakfast facilities make sense with those standards in the C1 and the C5.
So I'm going to switch my vote.
Okay.
You still win, but.
Oh, good. That's good. I like to win. Okay, so
Rip my head off.
so then, how do we want to do it within the C then?
So they're not allowed in C1 and C5 at all.
That's correct.
Can I see C5?
Yes.
But to put it in
Do
perspective,
you want the current, do you want what's there now? Do you want what's proposed? Do you want?
You pick.
Let's pick C5 clean version. This would be what it was. This would be what it would look like if you were to adopt it, although it's not. Maybe Jeff has a list of uses here. Maybe that would be a better comparison.
What were you gonna say, Ronnie?
Oh, I was just saying, just historically, I mean, just for the neighborhood here, Calicachita, which is now C2, was C1. It was the other bubble of C1 spot zone, but it was C1 for a while.
And they were allowed in the C1 back in the day. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, that whole history seems
I don't know.
confusing.
Question for you, Sam. So under C2, I read that the existing code reads lodging is permitted under 10 units.
Under 10 minutes.
So is that used as a license to build, for example, a hospital, all the overnight rentals?
Each of those was considered a single unit.
Those considered single. So I mean, I might
They're
suggest
separate
that,
ownership.
because that's been kind of a rub in town. How about this compromise? How about bed and breakfasts in C1 and C2, lodging in C3 and C4, and I have no lodging whatsoever in C5.
The C1 and the C5 don't offer any type of lodging units.
Yeah, and C4, just a reminder, C5 is the Dave's Corner Market for these.
The neighborhood.
We don't want, I don't think we want to put nightly rentals in that strip area. So that's just something to remember.
So my just got put down there.
So where were you
Bed-
proposing that?
I'm suggesting bed and breakfasts in C1 and C2 in lieu of lodging establishments under 10 units. And then we just have lodging, all forms of lodging, in C3 and C4 as it is now.
C3, C,
So the change is, I don't
So
think I'm
C3
changing
and
here.
C4 stay the same.
So these is,
So
oh no,
instead
which
of
one's C4? Where's C4?
C4 is the house, the campus, the
Oh, right,
north
right.
and south of town areas. And so what Mike is saying is that instead of having lodging under 10 units listed as a use, you list a bed and breakfast in that zone instead of the lodging under 10 units.
It's a little less density, and I get the sense a lot of neighbors would be happier with that than having another pile or whatever.
Hotel.
And C2.
Yeah,
We ever
Or
employ C2, I mean,
or
I'm
C4.
kind of seeing a future where a lot of towns get tired of hotels and stuff like that. We might employ these C1 or C2 more often than we have in the past. And this might,
Seems like certainly should be annexed, that's, something.
okay, so are we saying C2, C4? C2, C3, C4?
C1 and C2 for bed and breakfast.
C1, right now, the only area we have is that strip on the north end of town, right next to residential properties.
Uh-huh.
And then you have the C2 areas kind of all over the place.
So again, the change, the only significant change would be that in C2 zones, which is scattered around town, where presently we have lodging establishments under 10 units, which encompasses all these overnight rentals, for example, over by the hospital. Those would be disallowed in the future. Instead, I might suggest we permit breakfast there, because that would be more limited.
Oh wait, anywhere there's a nightly rental, you can do a bed and breakfast.
Mhm.
We don't care if they're serving food or not, so a nightly rental is a bed and
You
breakfast.
can call it what, you can call your lodging whatever you want.
and that's what we classify
That's what Caleb was
under the
saying.
umbrella of lodging.
Oh, okay.
Bed and breakfast and hotels and motels are all.
And nightly rental is currently allowed in which zones?
C2, C3, C4.
So then why don't we just take bed and breakfast out altogether?
Well, I don't personally see the harm of the bed and breakfast in the commercial, because, I mean, if you read the code, I mean, you're gonna live there for a while, you're
5
either
years.
gonna, in the commercial zone, either the owner or their manager is gonna stay there and be on site, you're providing meals, you're still more of the community. Then a nightly rental doesn't have to have any kind of manager on site, they're much less, yeah.
So would we add them to C1 and C5? Because then you could do them at 2, 3, and 4. We just don't care if you serve food or not. But then if you are going to do them in 1 or 5, you better learn to live there and serve food. Is that what you're saying? That's what, then that opens up what is otherwise excluded in C5. Is that, but then it allows it.
I was just trying to make clear to you the difference between a nightly rental and B&B, but,
Oh,
yeah.
Well, yeah.
I think the big concern on this end of the table is that with the C2, it's basically listed as lodging. So you could have an entrada unit, a Cotton Woods at Williams Way unit. If you were to switch the C2 use, take the lodging out, put B&B in, the owner manager could live on site. So if you change the C2 lodging regs to bed and breakfast instead of just lodging, that kind of decreases the intensity of
Human
that
presence.
C2.
That's what I'm driving.
That's,
Yes.
I think that's what
That is, yes, yes.
Now I understand.
Okay.
Yeah. About that too.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're clear that we don't want bed and breakfast in the R zones, and the C zones that we do want it in. What's next?
I do have a devil's advocate question though. I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with a bed and breakfast in most C zones. I mean, I can understand if people want to be protected with C5, but I don't know that anyone financially would choose to put it in the C4, but I don't have a problem with them there. If somebody
Well,
wants
and
to.
the bed and breakfast does have, there are some requirements, there's some standards that you have to meet. The owner or manager has to live on site. It does kind of,
Yeah,
when you're looking at a new
20%
commercial zone, maybe that is a better, that way that people have the option of putting in a bed and breakfast in a C1, C2, or C5. I haven't had a lot of people knocking on my door to put in a bed and breakfast.
Has anyone asked to put a bed and breakfast on 4th East? Has that ever been a request?
That I can think of.
But there are lodging units.
But you can only, in a bed and breakfast, you can only have 5 rooms. 5 rooms. The proprietor has to live there. You have to be established for 5 years before.
But like if you had a big lot, you could have like 5 B&Bs. You can have a live-in keeper.
Well, it's not just 5 rooms, right? Isn't it only like 20% of your space or something? I think there's,
I think that's if you do an addition. So it's a
oh, maybe.
Okay,
No dwelling unit in excess of 20% of the total parcel size.
so you can already do it in 2, 3, 4. Nightly rental, feed them or not, up to 10, at least.
In the C2, yes.
So,
It's under 10.
9.
so then do we want to, so the question to this council is, do we want to specifically also allow, but with the condition of bed and breakfast as the only way you could do a nightly rental in C1 and C5? So then they would be added as uses in C1, C5.
Or just taking them, my suggestion was to take it out of C2.
C2 you can do a nightly rental. Oh, you're saying take it out?
That's what Mike is saying, is
Yes.
take the lodging part out and allow a bed and breakfast is the only way that you could do lodging in the C2.
All right, I don't know. I mean, you gotta put them somewhere.
So you get 3, 4, and 5.
You got 3 and 4. Overnight living, that's what you're doing.
Do we see
I
that?
can't remember, are they allowed in the resort commercial areas in the RAC, so that they're also allowed there? That's the whole north end of town, well,
So
a
here's what
whole
you
chunk.
see 1, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
And here's 1
No,
hand,
you're,
bed and
you have
breakfast.
to zone it back.
Nobody else does. And 2, you got nothing, and 3, and in 2, you have lodging establishments under 10 units.
Yeah, so you're saying instead of having lodging in C2, have bed and breakfast in
Right,
C2?
so just,
So,
these guys can put this in right there.
No,
So C2
and
is
then no lodging in C5. No overnight lodging.
So nothing.
So we're looking at our hospital,
Uh-huh.
Right.
Which they're already established.
We've got a little off 500 West, right?
Little, yes.
Yeah, a little down
The
center.
corner store, the plumbing store, the dentist office.
But what's there along 4th North and 5th West is pretty well established.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Not quite sure what they're doing there with the dentist office, that's a mystery, but. And then there's the store and the free clinic and plumbing store.
I mean, I feel more comfortable having I'd like this there than I would having overnight.
Yeah, because if, like,
Those are all established neighborhoods around that.
they are, and if, like, if, say, the thrift store ever closed and that piece of property is sold, that's a pretty big piece of
Bobby's
property.
No, right.
No, really.
Other part,
Yeah, that's somebody named.
yeah, the big blue building, the ones at that one.
Yes.
Yes.
If that ever sold, they could cram a pretty big hotel on that piece of property.
It'd still be limited to 9 units under this.
Okay.
But Mike's question was, like the Cottonwoods at Williams Way, those are considered individual units because each one is owned by a separate person. And so that's,
And so,
clearly there are more than 9 units there, but they're individually owned units, so that's.
and so in Toronto.
Mhm.
Another thing is, like, there's hostels. So that would preclude hostels from C2. Because right now you can do a hostel as lodging, but you can do a bed and breakfast. So it would preclude hostels, which is probably fine for the C2. We haven't really seen any hostels other than Lazy Lizard, but
And that one's in the county, so that's,
we don't really allow them, but it's just
they
like
don't really have any
lodging.
lodging code, yeah.
It's just lodging. It's just like you can do a hotel, you can do a hostel.
If it doesn't impact them. So do we have a consensus? And so again, what I'm talking about, you would end up, the only change I'm suggesting here, because growing sentiment over the years about visiting hotels and so forth, is that we delete lot in C2, is the only change. Delete lodging establishments under 10 units, under which, as points out, has been used to establish groups of overnight rentals, and replace them with bed and breakfasts, as is currently allowed in C1, which would remain. And C3 and C4 still have all types of lodging.
Yeah,
C5 has nothing.
okay. So what do y'all think?
I feel good about that.
I'm okay with that.
I think it's a step in the right direction.
So C1, C2, C5. So lodging is being removed from C2, replaced with B&B. And we've already got it in C1, C2, and we're allowing it in C5?
I wasn't thinking about it. What do you guys think? I mean, I'm open.
Well, C5 is pretty much Dave's Corner Market and down 4th East.
I feel like it's supposed to provide, the way the zone is described, provide kind of goods and services for the neighborhood, and I don't necessarily feel like lodging does that, so I would
It's just
be-
that we
Just
also
inside.
might be Apache.
Yep.
So, I mean,
But that's been there for,
It's the nature of, the grandfather years, yeah.
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I'm just saying there's a little bit of lodging.
Mm-hmm.
The apartment complex right down the street. I mean, the over, that you
So it's
said.
constant
Now it's
Cedar
a-
Breaks is
Yeah.
a legal non-conforming
Yeah.
use, so.
Yeah.
So with the overnight rentals on Williams Way, if lodging were eliminated, would they be legal non-conforming uses? And so at the time that they sold and something that I knew, now they're gonna have to get business licenses for individual
It
units.
runs with the land. It runs with the land, so as long as they maintain that type of use, they're okay. But if they
They do
discontinue that use for a period of 1 year, it doesn't come back.
oh, 1 year is the, I was wondering about that.
So if the units got eventually old, as long as they kept up the use, they could rebuild them or whatever.
It's the same
Yeah.
with the Cedar Breaks. That's how they were established.
Okay, let's get back to code, because that was thick and good work.
Okay, and
Yay.
I'm removing them from R3 and R4, correct?
Yep, make sure there's no bed and breakfast in the residential. Cool. We're getting there. 6:10. Let's bust a move.
Let me just
Finish it.
finish it.
Do you have a definition of this? Didn't see one in current. Definition of secondhand
Proposed with
stores.
the ordinance, Rondi, that I apologize, I know I said I was going to put those definitions in the
So
subsection.
it's,
And I did,
it's over there.
but so I
Okay.
just included it with your comment here, so this
Okay.
is the definition of
Okay,
a
great.
service
Okay.
establishment proposed with this ordinance.
Okay, I just thought it helps people read.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, C2's done.
Does anybody have any other C2s?
C2 has some fixes that I need to make, but.
Okay, on to C3. PO. Anyone? Rachel, of all people, I just made us our worst joke. I said on to C3.
PO.
We're putting the fun back in conditional uses.
And they were so fun.
Red pavement.
So I went through and just resolved some of the formatting things, the font, so there wasn't 4,000 comments on here. But
Thank you.
Keep the ones that were, where I saw a note that was with this.
Okay.
And your first one said, secondhand and taxidermy and other uses removed. Is it implied that these are retail and covered more generally? It seems like in the C3, we were trying to look at the uses that.
What's actually there now as opposed to
Well,
what was
yeah,
there
I mean,
historically or.
your C3 zone is, I mean, that's kind of your tax base, it's your
Right.
income zone. Is a taxidermy shop the best use of that C3 zone? We don't know.
I have no idea, I don't buy stuff things.
I don't
Definitely
either.
tired.
I mean, so some of these uses were probably not appropriate for that. I mean, your C3 is your downtown area, you want that to be your income generating area.
But if somebody were selling items that were taxidermed,
It could fall under retail, so
It would
you can
retail.
have a retail store of.
where's the verb in the past tense for taxidermy?
I think you're
Stuffed animals.
Selling stuff.
A retail store of stuffed animals.
Yeah, literally. Okay, so that makes sense, my question.
Stuffed animals that used to be alive, incredible stuffed.
Because the secondhand is a primary, we don't need to specify secondhand, somebody selling clothes on Main Street in the C3. Well, like Raven Image has like used
Yeah.
fun on consignment, that's secondhand, so
we're.
we don't care. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Ronnie, does this need a number? Should it include standards?
I think, I'm sorry, I think in my version when I must have missed the 5, it was there, and I just missed it, so that's fine, it has a number. And then, if you look at the original code, there were some standards having to do with drive-through windows, and I didn't know if we meant to include them, or if this is now something different,
So-
we don't need them.
I'm gonna start with that.
Yeah, okay,
So the drive-through windows, this should not have ever really been included in the C3.
okay.
The drive-through windows and the standards were actually supposed to be applied to the C1, but somehow in the ordinance, the numbers got twisted and they ended up in the C3, because the C3 is always allowed for drive-through windows. But the standards and that use were actually supposed to be out in the C1 for the credit.
So you don't, yeah, nothing special, but I mean, you could just have a drive-through window.
Yeah, I don't know that it needs to be specified, but because it ended up in the zone with the standards and weird things happened, I just left it here just for fun.
Yeah, and I take it that's helpful for banks and what have you.
So, cool, resolve?
Resolve. Okay. And then, oh look, Kaylin's on there with us, editing. Kaylin, get out of there. No. Okay, number 10, garages and car lots seemed redundant with number 16, which was like parking lots and then I think I added garages.
Well, is it one like where you work on, you fix cars and you sell them, and the other one is?
Parking lots and,
Yeah.
I added and parking structures.
Sorry, did we get that far?
Well, it's just right here, garages and car lots.
And I
Garage implies to me that
Fix
fix
it.
repair cars.
Okay.
I think
So it's
somewhere
not
else,
redundant.
yeah, somewhere else in the Cs we had, you don't know that the language is the same, but I think it said vehicle repair.
Yes, and
Vehicle
that's,
sales.
and that's probably, let's see, do we have that in here? Let me see if this one says
I
it.
think it's one of the higher Cs.
It might be in the C4. So maybe that should just say vehicle repair and vehicle, sorry, I'll stop scrolling so you can see. Vehicle repair and vehicle sales to be consistent with the C, I think it's the C4
Yes.
zone.
Yes.
All right,
Yes, that's, I think, yes.
yes. Okay, that I think is what that was supposed to really be.
So number 10 will be vehicle sales and vehicle repairs. Okay.
And where do vehicle rentals fit into that?
Oh,
Um,
enterprise.
They do these UTVs. Well, right now, there's a whole lot going on in the C3, so we should probably include them there as well.
we think it's an appropriate use.
I think that it is a business that is operating a lot of, there's at least
I would say probably
6
there are a lot of
rentals.
rental businesses, and I think we classify them as, where they service enterprises, something along those lines.
Some of them are outfitters as well, right?
Outfitters, yeah.
So renting a bike, renting an ATV, rentals. Sorry. So that's considered a service establishment?
I think that's
Renting
what we
an
have.
ATV is a service establishment? Or tutoring?
It might depend on the business, like with cowboy adventures, you'd probably be getting a guide and going with them. Someone else, you might be just renting and going on your own. I don't know if that cuts it from an outfitter to
It doesn't say rentals.
It's car repair.
Or repair travel.
Shoe shop. Yeah. Nobody's buying shoes from the shoe shop anymore. Even fix a pair of shoes.
What if it just
Cobbler?
says, I mean, does it, vehicle sales and rentals or vehicle
Yeah.
sales?
It seems like we should include sales and rentals together.
I mean, it's happening in the C3 zone, and that,
Yeah.
like I said, that is your money making zone.
Yes.
That's kind of where you want that stuff to happen.
Yeah.
Well, I would disagree a little bit in that idea. I hope that over time, C3 will become more pedestrian friendly, which implies a density of use that's sort of attractive to pedestrians, so more professional offices, more retail, and like the existing rental, ATV rentals are fine, I think, in that context, but like car lots take up a lot of space and sort of make that density of use more diffuse. And maybe market pressures will eventually move them further out of town, but I don't want to encourage them.
Harlan's going to end up being a dead space when you get later into the day, because you don't have a lot of retail necessarily going on after it closes up.
Which might be why we specified in the C4 the vehicle sales and the vehicle repair, and not necessarily in the C3. I don't know that we really caught the garages and car lots part.
So, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to take out garages and car lots from the C3?
It's certainly not garages, I don't feel, I just feel like it's a need most people with a car have, and it's, when it breaks down, you don't have to push it quite as far.
And there
But-
are different levels of car repair.
Yeah.
You know, if you're just
you
doing
a body shop
like-
versus, yeah.
If you're just doing like oil changes and
Yeah.
minor things like that, like blue, but it's fine where it is. But if you're doing painting and all of that stuff that produces all
Yeah,
of
I
those
think
fumes.
we
and
describe
if
it
you're
differently,
doing
right? That where it's like an auto
different
body
too.
shop, or, yeah, I feel like we have that in some of the,
So it almost seems like we should leave it as is and not mess with it. Because I was thinking it was a parking lot and that it was redundant, so you can resolve my comment.
I think, Tony, we have auto body and fender shops, auto painting, current under C3 is a separate item.
Auto body, fender shops,
auto
yeah, so we can do that in C3. I think we leave it, we've got a few car lots in the C3, so I think we just leave it. Okay, let's move on. Because this one's exciting, housing in the C3. So specifically ground floor. I did amend the language to say, if it's okay with everybody, the owner of the property is a legally recognized affordable housing nonprofit or land trust, instead of the language that was there, because that would be inclusive for whether it's housing authority or like even Sellers, you know, who does the property management for HASU at Cinema Court. This is a little, I mean, I'll say it could be conflict of interest, saying, you know, this would also include community rebuilds. But it just creates the, like, before, probably when this was written, the only people building housing were just housing authorities. And now there are like other nonprofit housing groups doing that work.
If you want the history of this,
Yeah, that's right. This was crafted for the Virginian apartments.
Yeah,
they needed to have an expansion, they were a non-conforming use, and this section was written specifically to
because they're
allow them to, yeah.
And so just to clarify, these conditions are, all of them have to be met. And one of them is non-compliant ground floor dwellings already exist on the property. So there's just, I don't think there's just that much in C3, is there?
well, I wanted to exclude that, actually. I put that as a, consider excluding, deleting that one. I mean,
Are we assuming longer term affordability here? Like, can we make some assumption like it's going to be affordable longer than 5 or 10 years that we're looking
well, if
at?
it was owned by an affordable housing nonprofit or a land trust, they would have affordability mechanisms in place. So it would be, by definition, affordable housing. We could also get rid of 11 and say we don't want affordable housing on the ground floor for the C3. But
I hate to take that away if for some reason Virginia apartment needs to come back and something needs to happen there. I mean, I hate to just take that out completely and, not have that opportunity available for them to expand if they needed to. And maybe it needs to be looked at.
There was a major grant they were trying to get, and we had to have proof in the code that they were allowed to add stuff.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So it was a big rehabilitation of the structure.
all right, well then let's go through it. So with the changing of the language, still include them there, affordable housing nonprofit.
So all you're doing is adding to that definition that used to say legally constituted housing authority. You've added to that, correct?
Well, it means that the owner has to be an affordable housing nonprofit or land trust.
Yes.
So it's limiting the range of nonprofits that could conceivably be property owners.
No, it's just saying if you're gonna operate housing on the ground floor in C3, it's gonna have to be affordable housing. Otherwise,
The owner of the property is a legally constituted housing authority, blah, blah, blah. Or alternatively, the owner of the property is a legally recognized affordable housing nonprofit or land trust. As opposed to what previously said as a legally recognized nonprofit land trust. Oh, never mind.
oh, it's funny. Yeah, the language for 11 and then down under A. I just
Okay,
amended it in under A.
Yeah, no, I was misreading it.
Let me ask just a big picture question. What do you guys think about, aside from the Virginian, if somebody wanted to do affordable housing downtown on the main floor? Because the other thing, if you scroll down, I said there's a rule. Scroll down. Like, you can do affordable housing on the ground floor, but employee housing may be allowed at a rate of up to 20%. Oh no, I added,
This historic dwelling.
no, before historic dwellings, so the ground floor must, here, it was a standard. Oh, and where all ground floor frontage is used exclusively for business-related purposes and not housing ingress egress. So like, if you're gonna have like housing, affordable housing on the ground floor, it's gotta be in the back. And it's not frontage. But you can do it if you're a land trust or a nonprofit housing group.
So one of the things I've been trying to put into perspective is how short or pressed are we for commercial space in the C3? Because I mean, I do understand historically, right, there were protections in place to maintain the ground floor for commercial because You don't want to lose that opportunity to have space for commercial business. But then you get into those weird things of some of the homes that have been there longer, so there are people living there still. And so I guess this raises the same question. In theory, given our housing problem, I don't have a problem. I'm just trying to weigh, like, does a seesaw shift at some point where you wish you hadn't allowed some of that ground floor, but I mean, I feel like there are, enough people physically who probably benefit from having access to ground floor. Housing.
But it's ground floor in the back.
For the employee housing, right? But is it the same for the land trust and the?
No, that's different.
I don't think there would be 10 people knocking at the door wanting to do that either, so. I guess I don't really have a problem with it, although, yes, I'm just proceeding with caution, yes.
So let me ask you guys, the way it's worded right now, as far as the comments and so forth, do you see anything that strikes you, sticks out like a sore thumb that's a problem, or potentially be a problem? You guys see a lot of people coming in the door.
I think that the price of land in the commercial zones are, you're probably not gonna see a lot of applications for ground floor dwellings in the C3 zone. I mean, but that doesn't mean that, 20 years from now, that is gonna be the case. It could change. I mean, our market could shift, but I just don't know that the price of land would really warrant somebody purchasing a piece of property downtown and putting housing on it.
Yeah.
They would want that commercial use to offset the cost of that.
Seems like the more likely scenario is someone dies and donates their property to one of these housing.
And this sort of clarifies that if it's an employee housing, that your front is going to be business and then the back is employee housing.
Like a mullet?
So this is right from a downtown park, which was like for a manager or a business owner to live in the back or above that, above the business. But in the back, then you could use up to 20% of that floor area for an apartment back there. Well, then we extended it to this and made it much larger because you couldn't put any housing in. And that was one of the things that a lot of people were talking about, business owners in particular. I don't have any place for my manager to live, can stay in the shop.
Outfitters.
Well, like TAG was asking for it, Adrift was asking for it, businesses were asking for employee housing in the back. Well, so does anybody have heartburn with my suggestions?
So as drafted, yeah.
Yeah. I guess the only thing that would need to be changed is the title, ground floor dwellings for legally constituted housing authorities, affordable housing nonprofits, or legally recognized nonprofit
We
land.
can just match that.
Yeah.
With that language, if everybody's okay with the changes in here.
What did you guys say about 11C? I missed whether that needs to come out or that can stay.
I thought we were just working on 11A first.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, yes. I didn't know if I was saying yes or
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I was just focusing on 11A.
Gotcha. Yeah, that works, yeah. Good.
We have a thumbs up on 11A. Everybody good?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Jade?
Yeah. And then B is occupied finance.
So 11A, this is, I'm just striking from this last portion of it, correct? That's what this,
Yeah.
this comment is?
Mhm.
Okay.
Equal to, I don't know where I added or.
Oh, right here. I'll fix the order. Or land trust.
Cool.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Here's deed restriction, period, administration.
So I just added that because it seems like when we talk about percentage of AMI, now we're also defining affordable housing in terms of the period that it remains affordable and how that's administered, and I don't know if we want to get into that or if we have, that's implicit because.
I think it's implicit. I think that's a good point, but I think it's implicit. If an affordable housing or land trust owns it, like, it's gonna be they're gonna have restrictions.
And that will be the actual title of this. I mean, it'll say ground floor dwellings for legally constituted housing authorities or nonprofits or land trusts. And I think that you have to be one of those, you have to be in that category. You can talk to us about that.
Yeah. Yep. So then implicit, so that is good.
Did you just resolve your own
I did.
Oh my goodness. That's
comment? The wheel?
Ronnie says we have other places we define affordable housing differently. Okay, so you feel good about that, when we resolve your question. I think it's similar.
Yeah, no, this is more consistency in our code question, because here we're referring to affordable housing and 80% of median gross income, but in the past, we just referred to 100% of AMI, and I just didn't know if we're treating each of these instances separately, or if we, in general, when we talk affordable housing, are talking about below 80%.
Usually, always, affordable housing is 80% or below.
Okay, so we might have to change that. If we're saying
No,
100%.
we were saying, as part of the pad, we were saying like, we're willing to look at ranges,
Okay.
right? Yeah,
Okay.
going above that 80%.
Okay.
Because
Yeah. So resolve?
Non-compliant. So I was saying, I suggested to delete that, but we could keep it in there. Like it's gotta have housing. If it's just an empty lot behind a business and they want to build like a fourplex, I think it would be cool. So if they can't do that, if there had to first be a ground floor dwelling.
Unless that businesses are doing the employee housing,
Yeah,
because
Oh,
then
that's
they have
true.
that option available.
yeah, I think you have to keep in mind this was specifically for.
Not employees.
Right.
The employee housing part was the part that was specifically put in there to address
Yeah.
housing on site.
But it seems like with the on-site employee housing, there's a significant limitation on the percentage or number of units. And by removing the provision to allow the units under 11 to be managed or something by a land trust or nonprofit, conceivably a business could perhaps build more than that and then utilize 11 if they partner with an housing authority or others to keep them affordable.
So hear me out.
Yes.
Please, just because this is what people do to me. So what if Tony comes in, she's got her business, and she builds her 20% of the employee housing. And she comes back and she says, I need more. And then she puts those back 20% she already built, because they're already existing, under that, and can build again. Could that work? Because then that 20%, now the 20% that she.
If they
built
want to build more,
originally-
just let them build more. I mean, gosh, if you're gonna build housing, let's not put a barrier around it.
Yeah, and the idea
Because
was,
they're gonna flip it to nightly rental
the idea
tomorrow.
behind the restriction is trying to get that balance. We need the retail.
We
Yeah,
need the income, but we also need housing, so.
Price
yeah.
property in town.
I bet it's housing for 5 minutes and then they flip it to nightly rental. But
So you,
So how do we
that would
that, I mean,
argue against 15 at all?
yeah, but
well, so then, no, it would, I mean, that's why I'm just like, don't discourage it.
Well, I mean, it says the lease term shall be a period of not less than 31 days. I mean, so that the employee housing has to be for a long term. They can't just build it and then flip it to nightly rentals.
Yeah.
If they're building it under this, they have to keep it as.
I'm just saying that the likelihood of like it staying long-term residential is less likely. It could eventually become a nightly rental, and it's allowed to do it, they're allowed to do that. They do now.
I think the upside of that is that they need the housing to keep their employees. And so if they can just walk to work, that's much better.
Yeah,
But I think also you have to remember that if they're building the housing, the employee loses his or her job, they won't be in that employee housing.
yeah, and the other thing right now is like, if a hotel wanted to hire somebody and put them in a hotel room, they couldn't technically allow somebody to live in the hotel room for more than 30 days.
Well, I would take exception to that. I'd say they can use up to 20% of the ground floor of their area as that, if they wanted to use one of the hotel rooms.
They could, because of this.
Yeah.
Yes.
So So there
which
is
is
that
good, there's a
opportunity.
reason to keep that,
Yes.
yes. The number 15, the ground floor of employee dwellings. Okay, well, I think we're just saying, like, do we want to already have, do long-term property units need to already exist if you want to build?
So basically, if we leave C in, that means anybody who wants to enact a loan has to find like an older home in the C3,
Yeah.
and that would be the property they have to use. Whereas if we take it out, anything could
Maybe
qualify.
somebody would build housing in the C3. It could also be high-end
In
housing.
terms of the geographic restrictions, and maybe I'm the only one, but because I personally don't have a problem with the homes that have been here longer, and I'd be happy to have both. I mean, I'm fine with taking C out.
Does anybody want to keep C in? Do you, staff, do you have a feeling anyway?
No, I don't.
I just assume take it out.
Because it
I
was
don't
targeted
know.
for a specific location.
Mm.
But I don't know how much of an
Again,
impact that would have.
yeah, the market's gonna dictate what's gonna happen down there, and they, you know, they're not usually gonna buy a multi-million-dollar piece of property just to put housing on it, because the return on their investment just isn't there. So I don't see any reason why, I don't have any heartburn leaving it in or taking it out, however you guys want to go. I mean, I know this happened once, and this exception was put in there to allow them to do an expansion. And hasn't happened since. So maybe if we take it out, it gives somebody an opportunity to do something.
Okay, so out, good?
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, resolved. And then for the planning commission has the authority to waive or alter off-street parking, you want to see a parking study.
Yeah, I just would like to approach that more as a whole, because, I mean, the on-street parking is increasingly, it seems like it's getting increasingly crowded downtown, and specifically, we're talking about some streets, and I'm reluctant to just allow it to be waived. We're about, because that's just going to increase the pressure there. So,
I'm fine with that.
So removing that paragraph from the Moab Planning Commission to quality of affordable dwelling units. I think parking's really important, so.
So you would require
it's being important in what way?
I think I agree with you. Can't, I would make it a little more difficult to waive parking requirements.
to make that housing authority parking or impact study.
Do a parking study?
Yeah. This is what I'm looking at as a nonprofit now, I'll have to
Right, that's a good
put
point.
more money forward to have an engineer do the study.
And our current numbers don't usually trip apart, we're thinking of a traffic study, parking study. Sorry, I'm getting confused. You have to be sure 50 or 80 units.
And this says, I mean, it says waive or alter. And you make
Or
a
alter.
few, you know, and
I'm okay with keeping that in.
I know.
I also down there say instead of 0.75, we should have 1.
Well, that was because so many of the temporary employees in particular do not have vehicles and do not drive. A lot of them, such as the J1 students, ride bikes or walk. So we were trying to help encourage that housing development.
I
for
know. That's a
businesses.
good point. So planning commission could be like, all right, we'll waive the parking requirements because it's specifically housing for J1. That would be reasonable.
well, that,
But that would be affordable
this
housing.
is two different things.
Yeah,
So
we're
11
not-
is here, I don't know what's going on here with my numbering, but 11 is this,
Yeah.
and then 15, which 12,
Also
is
known as
this.
12.
Here, let me do this.
Oh, it's 6:40. We have 5 minutes. We gotta move through this.
Okay.
Okay, so, all right, parking study. Kaylin, should Kaylin win?
This applies to that nonprofit housing authority land trust. It doesn't apply.
I think a parking study is probably reasonable. I think asking a nonprofit to do that if they're gonna be building on the C3.
Let me clarify. We're talking about C3. We're in the process of having a parking study done just for the whole district.
True.
So that's more what I'm thinking, let's approach, let's see what that says, and then work within that as opposed to just, so, I don't know.
So how would you change that?
I would just remove it and then do the parking study and then come back and revisit this.
I feel comfortable with
So
that.
you'll be seeing the parking study shortly in the very near future.
But as far as this ordinance is concerned,
I feel comfortable, yeah, I feel comfortable taking that out, because you're right, we'll have a better grasp. And like, nobody's looking to develop in that zone anyway.
This does mirror another code section, the parking requirements where the planning commission has the authority to grant an exception to the off-street parking requirements. So that is already in the code as well as this. It's just a mirror of what is in the parking requirements.
So then we can take that out. Yeah, yes, delete and move on.
delete
Yeah.
move on.
And then comfortable, forbidden ground, roading, construction. I said delete. Constructed in conjunction with commercial use must adhere to the following standards. Yeah, because then it's just, just cleaning it up.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Resolve.
Yeah, because it's still, it's just
Okay.
taken out right, guys? Yes, it's okay.
That's good, because I just clicked right through it, sorry.
Yeah. And
Are we
then
talking
we
about
also
a time
have
crunch now?
20% or 2 units per 10,000 square feet, exceed 1,000 square unit size.
And then Kaylin had a comment about that also. It's over here.
I had it, but I don't know.
Right here. This is you,
Located in the front of a building. Yeah, that makes sense. And we're all ground floor frontage. Do you guys like that? So like if you're walking down Main Street, you're not gonna walk by an apartment. You're gonna walk by a business. Is that good?
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's
adding to
good.
that and adding to this. And we're all ground floor building frontage is exclusively.
So you can't like have stairs going in and out. You gotta like get to it from the back. Yeah?
But if it's zero lot line, I don't know, I think,
They'll have to be creative with how they design it.
Yeah,
It
you
could
got
be
part
that
in
you
the
walk
back.
in and you enter, like if you go to it was used to
Sling rocks.
Yeah, if you walk in and you go to the sides and enter the buildings that way and then you go up to the, you could design it.
yeah, okay.
Or it looks like a
Business.
business facade, but you actually walk in and get to your
Yeah.
housing units.
That was the intent. I know.
Like Center Street Square.
Yeah. Okay, so we're good, we're resolving?
Yeah, I have a quick question on this, just because of when we went door to door to some of the outfitters to ask about their housing challenges. I assume this is all kind of limited by international building code, right? Like, we're not at a place where people could consider letting their river bike camp behind their business so long as they have access to a kitchen and bathrooms. I mean, they have to
Right.
be in a structure or in their vehicles.
This
They have to
permits
be
them to
in a-
get code compliant.
Gotcha. But they
Housing,
can't be.
yes. I mean, recreational vehicle does not meet the international building code, they're just not designed for long-term habitation, so. Okay,
So it's resolved.
and we're good.
Yeah.
Everybody good with that?
Can we remove, what does it say?
Can we remove as long as the front is commercial? This is that limitation. Just Caitlin had a comment, I could go for 1 unit, 5,000 square feet, but not 2, 10,000.
That was slightly tongue in cheek, maybe I didn't understand why I said 2 and 10,000. Are you implying that there's a maximum of 2 units?
I think it was just a mathematical example of 20%.
Right.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, never mind.
I'm guessing.
How?
I don't know what I'm saying, can we remove? What is that?
You're looking at this right here. This is your.
Oh, yeah, who cares?
It would be nice.
Can we just remove it? Who cares? The size.
Well, 20% of the,
1,000 square foot unit
if
is
it was
huge.
smaller than 1,000 square feet, then you could do, I mean, if there were 600, then you could do 3 per 10,000 square feet, right?
Yeah, well, it's just saying you can't have anything bigger than 1,000 square feet, right?
Right, but you can go smaller and have more units, as long
Yes.
as it's within 20%.
Yes.
So,
Employee being able to be allowed up to 20% of the structure, period. Or do we care? 646. I'm not sure we care.
yeah, I think we're going to just cut that 2 units per 10,000 square feet.
Okay,
Structure period.
so it still can only be 20% of the commercial structure, but not any more specificity.
Okay. Period.
And then once, are we good with, I'll withdraw my comment about the 0.75.
So is that
Parking.
20% of total floor area or 20% of ground floor? Is that,
Of the commercial structures.
okay,
Total.
right.
Of the commercial structure, yeah.
So retail 80%, housing 20. And I'll withdraw my comment about the parking.
Okay.
Okay. And you already had your parking comment, so can we resolve you, Kaylin?
The 0.75 was for the unit, so you could have a 2-bedroom unit and not have 2 spaces, 1.5.
Yeah.
For the employee housing, I mean, this isn't just housing in general.
Unit, bedroom. Oh,
So you need 1.5 spaces for a 2-bedroom.
Or you could have 0.75 for a 2-bedroom unit of employee housing.
Depending on.
what do you, well, so Kaylin, you'd rather see per bedroom than per unit? And I was saying like 1 per bedroom, but,
I would rather see them be able to put more housing.
oh, y'all, listen, it says 48, so we should probably,
Come back to you.
I'm willing
Right.
to not worry about that, because it's a relatively small amount of use anyway.
I feel like we can finish this in 20 minutes. I'm bummed that we got off to a late start because of the recording, but I think we've done a really good job, and I think we have to, what?
But it would be 12.
12 minutes. Let's go 10.
Let's,
No.
10, 2-minute break?
We're not going to finish.
We're not going to finish.
We haven't been
What's
through
the-
C4
We're
and
getting
C5.
down to logging, that's going to take some time.
Yeah.
So,
I'm saying I think we should break here.
okay,
And then we should, at our,
that doesn't give you a lot of time if we're trying just to shoot for that October deadline.
how much comment did everybody have for C4 and C5? I really didn't have much.
C4.
I don't think we're going to.
Well, let's just look at the quick comments.
We'll have some.
Are you gonna break or not?
I'm going to break.
Yeah,
I think we need a break, and
we're just looking to see how much
I was
comment.
just
Okay,
looking
there's
to see
still,
how many comments.
there's probably like 10 comments.
This is my
There's
crowd.
the hour.
This is my crowd here.
Okay, when do we want to do the hour? Do we want to do it at our next council meeting as a workshop?
We
Or no?
have 6 tentative workshops planned for the next council meeting already, just for the record.
and what?
There's 6 tentative workshop items.
Enjoy.
I mean, obviously it won't happen, but I'm just saying, there's a lot of things teed up.
Okay, council, we need 1 more hour to finish this. When do we want to do it? Special meeting? Next week, Monday?
I'm
Special meeting lunch next week, Monday? Lunch?
I think I can do lunch.
Okay, anybody? Not,
What's the date?
it
The
is
17.
17th, Monday, lunch. Let's do it at noon. Here. Yes, and we'll finish this.
Can we book 2 hours just in case we go over 1 and we're not?
That's what I was gonna say.
12 to 2? I'm okay with that. Okay, 12 to 2. Can we have Carmella, David, will you please have Carmella create, or you create that and invite everybody? Because there was a little confusion with the special one. Okay,
Which
please.
one?
What? We had a meeting that was not invited by everybody or something. It just, thank you.
You may have to determine the place just as the rooms only available to one.
Here? Yes. Who's using it?
Yeah.
Let's figure it out. Okay, let's take a 10-minute break and come back at 7.